Hey travelers, Mag and Florida Crafters out here again doing what we do best, showing you the trails in Hawaii. This morning we are taking on Oahu's North Shore. We're starting right here at Waimea Bay, which is normally packed, absolutely packed with people. But because it's a little bit rainy today, we got the place to ourselves to go explore the beach. After that, we're gonna move up to our main objective, Kawela Bay. There are about a dozen geocaches in there for us to go find, including a letterbox, a multi, an adventure lab, and a ton of traditionals. That's gonna take us the better part of the morning. After that, we're gonna move over to Turtle Bay, and we'll be walking the coastline for a few more geocaches to finish this thing off. The North Shore is a beautiful spot to get to explore in Hawaii, and I'm excited to get to show it to you. So let's get out there together and see it. Come on, let's go. The North Shore of Oahu is the northern-facing shoreline that runs between Kahuku Point and Kahuku. Our first stop today on the tour of North Shore is Waimea Bay, located at the mouth of the Waimea River. If you've ever heard references about Oahu's North Shore, this is almost certainly the place you were hearing about. This is where the Eddy Surfing Invitational takes place, sometimes with waves reaching as high as 40 feet. Our objective out here on Waimea Bay is to complete this earth cache. The earth cache focuses on how the Waimea River connects to the ocean here at the bay. Now, as you can see, it is blocked by the beach and there's no access. That becomes a problem when there's a lot of water buildup on the river and it floods those areas. So on occasion, they will come out here and they will clear all this sand out and connect the river back into the bay. Right now, clearly it's not connected, so that's gonna drive the answers that we have to go ahead and complete this earth cache. In the Hawaiian language, Waimea means reddish water. The name seems appropriate as the natural barrier of the beach backs up the river, causing it to form a natural river estuary of red water. Just beyond the Waimea Valley, we follow a winding road up to the top of a bluff, 300 feet above Waimea Bay. Here we enter the Pu'u o Mahuka Heiau State Historic Site, home to the largest heiau anywhere on the island of Oahu. The heiau, covering over 2 acres, served a critical role in the religious, social, and political systems of the Waimea Valley. This one is thought to have been built as a luakini heiau sometime in the 17th century. It is located at a place of great mana that can be passed from the gods to the people. The people would honor the gods by presenting various ho'okupu and pule, offerings and prayers. The ho'okupu might include things like bananas, kalo, pigs, and fish. In November of each year, the rising of the Makali'i can be observed from this heiau. This would signal the start of the Makahiki season, a time of peace lasting for 4 months. Florida Crafters had this one in hand before I could even get here to the ground zero. One way to prevent geocache migration, which is where your cache moves from the ground zero to another spot, is to tether it in like this to ensure it always stays exactly where you want it to be. Nice find. Yeah. How's it looking in there?
Oh, we got some swag.
Got some swag. It looks dry in that container too. Dry is always a good thing.
Oh.
Ooh, look at that.
Half marathon.
Hey, that looks familiar. Before starting into our hike for the day, we make our way through a few quick parking grabs located just off the road, stopping in for a short visit at Sunset Beach. It is a 2-mile stretch consisting mostly of sandy shorelines, also well known for the big wave surfing that happens here. It is the kind of water that is only recommended for the most experienced of surfers though, as there is an extensive coral formation just beneath the surface. As far as places go to put your toes in the sand and enjoy the show, they don't get much better than this. Then we lace up our shoes, break out our hiking sticks, and set out onto the trails at Kawela Bay Beach Park. We've made it out to Kawela Bay. It's taken us a couple hours to get here because we did the touristy thing, but right when you walk in off the trailhead here, you have a map of the trails that you're gonna be hitting, and this looks pretty much exactly what we're seeing on the geocache map here. We've got the letterbox up here, we've got a multi in the middle, traditional spread around, and the adventure labs running us through. So I'm thinking this will take us a couple of hours, couple of miles, and it's supposed to be a very beautiful park. So let's see what it has in store for us. The Kawela Bay Beach Park is located just to the west of Turtle Bay. Whether you're looking for some time out on the trails to enjoy a nice hike, or a quiet beach where it can be just you and your family, this is the spot for you. Because the beaches here all require a short hike to access, they're relatively empty of people. The trails out here are actually very reminiscent of Florida in some ways. First of all, they're much better in the way that there's basically no yellow flies or mosquitoes. I love that. And while it's humid, there's less humidity. But one thing that they do share in common is as soon as you step off the trail in many of these places, it gets thick quickly. And there's not as many thorns out here, thank goodness, but there's still quite a few palm trees and those have those spiny edges, so you gotta be careful. I still am going to give Hawaii a lot of points compared to Florida because it's a lot easier as long as you're level. When we start talking about those mountain trails, the game changes entirely. The one thing that is impossible to miss no matter how you approach this trail is the giant banyan tree located just beyond the entrance. If it looks familiar, perhaps you enjoyed several episodes of Lost where it was featured. Or perhaps you too just enjoy the sight of a banyan tree. After some of the last trails we've been on, I can tell you this is already feeling like a blessing, as it appears that it's going to be completely flat the entire way. Fingers crossed on that one. Beyond the banyan tree, toward the edge of the park, the wide open feeling of the trail is quickly replaced by a dense forest. Overlapping branches and roots struggle for dominance, restricting our path. The hint is tree, and we find ourselves standing in the middle of a forest, which, while not entirely helpful, does provide a little bit of assistance since there's only one tree that's immediately accessible to us. That's where we focused our hunt, and that appears to be where Florida Crafters pulled up the prize. Nicely done. With the exception of that tight little corner, the rest of the trails here seem fairly accommodating to hikers. They often run parallel to the beach, providing you multiple options to get from point A to point B. While the view from the beach side is second to none, the major advantage of the trail is that it offers much firmer footing. I just love the fact that this trail follows the beach. So we have all of these amazing views of the beach, but because we're about 15 feet off, we're not having to wade through the soft sand. Instead, we get slightly more hard-packed trails, and this is fantastic because it makes for optimal walking conditions, optimal viewing conditions, and you're getting the best of both worlds that way. At each intersection, we come across directional signs indicating where each turn leads, making it darn near impossible to get lost out here. Not that Florida Crafters and I have any real concerns about getting lost in here, as we have the golf course off to our east, the highway off to our south, and the beaches running to the north and west. If we head in any direction for a short time, we are sure to find our way to where we want to go. Do we have a winner, Florida Crafters?
Oh, yeah. We have a winner. Victory!
Thanks to the witty limericks provided in each of the 5 stages of the Adventure Lab, we learned that Lost was not the only form of media produced here. As it turns out, there have been many TV shows and movies produced with scenes filmed right here at Kawela Bay. Some of the bigger names you may recognize include Pirates of the Caribbean, Hunger Games, and Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which next time I will be watching with a keen eye. When you have a lot of pine straw on the ground like this, hiking sticks are fantastic because you can both pull it back and you can listen for the sound of a geocache container. So as we work our way around the tree, we're doing exactly that. And right there, you can hear the hollow sound of plastic, which means that you've got a prize in hand, ready to go, another geocache to sign off on. Making waves out on the trail. For me, the coolest thing to be found anywhere out on this trail is located at the furthest northern point of the park. There you can find a pillbox left over from World War II, just as it was 80 years ago. Most of the others were destroyed in a tsunami that struck the shoreline in April of 1946, but somehow this one survived on. Alright, it looks like we've got another ground zero to work with here, and geosenses are on fire. We have a suspicious pile of rock, singular, and suspicious pile of sticks, and the sound of plastic. Ooh, the sweet sound of a geocache. Let's see what's inside this thing. And geocache, good info in case a muggle stumbles across it. Got our logbook, a little bit of swag, and the most important part of it being a letterbox, we have a stamp. Winner. Our entire time out on the trail so far, I can count on one hand the other groups of people we have come across. And here on the island of Oahu, with a population around 1 million people, that is saying quite a bit. These trails are moving to the top of my list if I ever need to find a little bit of alone time. No complaints from us today as we seek out these geocaches, and to be honest, we might be slow rolling this trail just a little bit so that we can enjoy this slightly longer. Sometimes the trail moves a little bit further into the woods away from the shore, but never for too long before we get the beach back in view again. It is the object in my view, though, that really has me scratching my head. So we've got this swing rope here, and I can't quite understand the purpose for it. You're definitely not making it to the water from here. And the branch looks like with somebody as not lightweight as me, it's probably going to collapse if I jump on this. So as much as you want to see me jump on this in the swing, not happening. And I hope nobody else does, because all they're doing is hitting those rocks. Pass, hard pass. I tried to talk Florida Crafters into giving it a try, but she just looked at me like I was crazy. We were hoping we'd find a geo trail leading into this one, but it does not look like we're gonna get so lucky. There must be a little bit of a bushwhack in our future, and as this thing usually happens, once we get to the ground zero, we'll probably then discover the geo trail we should have seen in the first place. Time to test that theory. Off through the tall grass I go, ducking under branches, following my GPS toward a zero. Through the obstacle course we go.
See, just sitting there.
There we go, there's our geocache.
I see ants. Hopefully there's not too many ants in there.
For those who haven't come across a geocache that is swarming with ants, that is the approved methodology to get them off. You do an initial drop so they don't crawl over your hands. Maybe you toss the geocache around like it's a hot potato to get the rest off a little bit. And then eventually you're free to make the find without getting bitten up. I also want the record to show that we are justified in bushwhacking to this ground zero because we're here, we have the geocache in hand, and have you seen anything resembling a geo trail?
No.
No, neither have I. So, what we did was the right method to get here. When we pop out on the golf course, we quickly celebrating our success, knowing that this is our eastern terminus. We've cleared the map here in Kawela Bay, which means it is time to start hiking in back toward the car. So this may be our last view of the beach from within the park, but we're gonna relocate over to Turtle Bay and finish this day off with one more hike, all beach, all the way. And it is quite the contrast to Turtle Bay, swimming our way through crowds of people on the beach. We have made it to the bonus round for today's adventure. We have in front of us 3 geocaches following the coastline, starting here at Turtle Bay near Kulima Cove and walking for 1.5 miles out before we turn around and walk it back. Now, if I were doing this with Ai-chan, I would walk all the way to the end first and find the last geocache, because that's the point where Ai-chan would say, okay, I'm done, we're not geocaching anymore. FlCrafters, however, is more amenable to hiking however many miles we have in front of us, even if we make some finds along the way. Now, the real trick here is going to be what the trail is in front of us. We can hope for better conditions, but the realist in me says we're going to be hiking the beach. And it is what it is, because at least it's going to give us fantastic views like what we just walked out on now. Check this out. Kulima Cove is one of the most sheltered and thereby one of the most serene spots here on the North Shore. Its crescent shape is enclosed by a natural rock barrier which helps to protect it from the waves. There's a lot of people out here now, but that's not a terribly big surprise considering how close we are to the resort. By the time we make it out, 1/2 mile or so, I suspect we're gonna have this place all to ourselves. Time's gonna tell. I'm content just sticking to the beach, but FlCrafters quickly finds what she's looking for. Well, I was betting against it, but it looks like FlCrafters won this round because we found a trail immediately parallel to the shoreline, which gives us a direct approach to where we want to go, but firm footing to walk on. Best of both worlds. Once again, good call, FlCrafters. Yeah. My hiking buddy gets a call just as we approach the ground zero. She steps back and watches me work. Don't mind me, just enjoying the gentle sounds of the waves, the wind blowing through the trees, and of course, as I'm known to do, the geocache patiently waiting for me to add my name to its logbook. On the beach just up ahead of us, I'm pleasantly surprised to come across an Oahu marker. These markers, consisting of stacks of stones, have been erected across the islands to help identify Wahipana and Wahikapu, places of importance and sacred spaces. This one teaches us how the Kanaka Maoli, the natives of Hawaiian, maintain a strong relationship between the land, sky, and sea. The Oahu play an important role in spiritual and ceremonial practices across the culture. They should always be approached with respect and treated with a degree of reverence. It looks like my expectations were met after all, in both ways. We're now about 1/2 mile out. We have stopped seeing people out here. It's just FlCrafters and I, and that trail disappeared, and we are walking on the soft stuff all the way. So for those of you who haven't hiked along the beach, it turns a mile into what feels like a significantly longer distance when your feet are sinking in with every step that you take. But it's all about the journey, right? And a journey we are on. As we draw nearer toward our final objective for the day, we look out onto Kahuku Point, which means the projection in the Hawaiian language. And it is to be translated quite literally, as Kahuku Point is a projection of land that juts off into the ocean away from the shoreline. This allows it the distinction of being the most northern point of land to be found on the island of Oahu. Because it is one of the few intact coastal strand habitats to be found on the island, the pathway leading to the point is controlled by ropes. The unique coastal dune ecosystem provides a safe birthing habitat for Hawaiian monk seals, nesting seabirds, and sea turtles. This spot was a must-do on our tour of North Shore because right where we're standing now is the furthest north point in Oahu. And I love getting out to the most extreme points wherever I go. So for me to be able to plant the flag and say I went all the way to the tip of the island, that's a victory all the way through. We sit for a few minutes, resting, relaxing, and enjoying the sense of accomplishment that comes with reaching Kahuku Point. Then we see a storm off in the distance speeding toward us and realize it's time to go. That does it. Another successful hiking adventure here on the trails on Oahu. Today was fantastic because unlike every other trail we've taken so far, we've been hiking at sea level all day long. No crazy elevation gains, no up the mountains, none of that. Sea level, ocean breezes, waves crashing, couldn't ask for more. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this trip to the North Shore with us, in particular, the hiking adventure through Kawela Bay, because I really enjoyed getting out there and I enjoyed taking you along with us. We have more adventures coming up for you, but we're gonna be taking a break from Hawaii for the next few videos because I have a surprise in store for you. Until then, make sure to like this video, subscribe, stay tuned for updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.